Days Gone is dropping at the end of April, and we still had a lot of questions for ourselves about it, so we've done some research, and now we're gonna keep you informed with 10 things you definitely need to know about Days Gone before it releases. Starting off with number 10, Days Gone looks to be pretty intensely story-focused. You play as biker Deacon St. John, one of the few survivors of a terrible outbreak that turned a big chunk of the population, human and animal, into monsters. Society is fragmented, outposts are scattered, and friends are few and far between for our lead character, who has this tragic backstory that will likely be explored. Now, according to some of the Days Gone developers, their game is a very story-driven game. So much so that the game's campaign is expected to take 30 plus hours to complete, more if you want to do everything and 100% it. And it's also expected to have 6 hours of cutscenes. Now, like for example, Metal Gear Solid 4's roughly had like 8-ish, so this is getting pretty close to that in terms of cutscene length. Not gonna lie, I was not at all expecting this game to be this long, but hey, that just means more games, so I'm into it. Days Gone also has numerous storylines to follow, obviously the main story with different paths to pursue and a few side stories as well, and from what I've read, it will also let you continue playing in the open world once the game is over. But speaking of open world, moving over to number 9, let's talk about it. It takes place in the Pacific Northwest region of the United States, a place close to home to the developers Sony Bend Studio, seeing as they're located in Bend, Oregon. So I guess they're pretty much as close to experts on it as you can be. This is said to be a completely seamless open world with no load times and a bunch of interiors to go into. One developer is quoted as saying that 99% of building interiors are explorable, meaning hopefully you won't run into a lot of like blocked doors or buildings that just exist to waste space. World size itself, though, is something we can't completely get a feel of until the game drops. We've seen some images of some of the map, but we're guessing it needs to be a fairly decent size just because you need roads to drive fast on your motorcycle. Now, we've also seen a good variety of biomes so far, deep forests, open fields, mountains, and even snowier regions. I'm expecting a few more surprises, but we'll just have to wait and see. Now next at number 8, what are the main things you're really doing exactly? Turns out there's a lot in this world to keep you busy. First, there are these NERO checkpoints, which act as kind of like a fast travel and storage area once you clear it out, as well as rewarding you with stat stuff I'll get to in a bit. Then, of course, there are story missions, which, as we said previously, there are a lot of them, and they're going to have multiple branches, so you can pursue one avenue of the story and then later move on to another one at your leisure. There are also camps filled with bad humans scattered throughout the environment. Taking all the enemies out and essentially clearing these outposts will lower the amount of times you're ambushed out on the road on your bike in-game. Plus, it'll also serve as another fast travel spot, and you'll typically get some loot or supplies from there. Random events happen in the world to keep you busy, whether it's an encounter or something to investigate, and they'll usually pop up on your map, apparently similar to other open world games, like with a question mark. Now, of course, there are the hordes to worry about, but also just as nasty are the freaker nests scattered around. You'll need to burn these suckers down, and then you'll hopefully see less freakers wandering around that region. Survivor camps will grant you different jobs like saving people, hunting a certain animal, or being a bounty hunter and doing bounty missions. Each of the 5 camps has different things to work on and earn and build up a reputation. You'll get rewards doled out for getting through certain percentages that were set for each one, apparently. So yeah, there's a lot of open world stuff to do here. But moving on to number 7, Deacon's drifter bike is probably your most useful tool in Days Gone. Obviously, it's what you use to get around the map, but it does more than that. If you upgrade the saddlebags on the bike, you can carry more ammo. It also acts as your respawn point when you die, so if you're going up against a hard enemy or something, you can park it close to the area the enemy is in, so that way you can just respawn and jump right back into the fight if you can. Your bike can also break and run out of gas, so you'll find yourself stopping from time to time to repair your bike and go on the hunt for some gasoline. You're definitely gonna wanna keep an eye on the condition of your bike and the amount of gas you have, because getting stranded in the middle of nowhere can be rough. The game will not help you. There are a lot of things out there in the world that want to kill you, from freakers to bandits, so you don't want to be stranded around without the means of getting away quickly. Customizing and upgrading your bike is also something you'll be doing. Upgrading saddlebags, adding nitrous, changing how it looks cosmetically. Doing big crazy jumps and stuff looks like one of the more arcadey aspects of the game, but you're an outlaw biker, man, and nothing is more important than your bike, so it makes sense to have such tight gameplay integration here. Now next at number 6, crafting is going to be an essential part of the game. You pick up stuff in the environment and you can craft on the fly while holding the weapon wheel open. There are crafting opportunities when you find blueprints for ranged and melee weapons, so basically expect to craft more badass nasty melee weapons like adding a saw blade to a bat, stuff like that. But then you can also craft ammo and healing items, as well as attaching stuff to your guns from this menu, like say a makeshift silencer. You'll learn to craft temporary buffs and traps as well, which will come really useful in more difficult sections that we'll get to in a bit. Now, next at number 5, let's talk about the Freakers themselves. No, they're not technically zombies. Apparently their behavior is slightly different, and in some ways, they're a bit more humanoid than you'd expect. Apparently, they can travel in packs, they have to eat, sleep, and drink, and they also react and behave differently depending on the time of day in the game's day-night cycle and dynamic weather system. Now, let's break down some of them real quick. First, there are the Swarmers. These are the guys that show up the most, and they're pretty standard. They can still kill you, though. Then there are the Screamers, which are the asshole versions that make loud noises to call in more Freakers, and they can run at you real fast. Then there are the Newts, who are like the infected kids who creep around and only attack if you come on their territory if you're weakened. Then there are the Breakers, which are like the big tank boys. Then there are also the infected animals, which are really exciting. The ones we know of so far are the Wolves, which can chase you on your bike. Then there's infected crows, and those big, nasty bears you've probably seen in a trailer. But the Freakers themselves are interesting in particular because, like I mentioned, they travel in packs, which leads to my next point, the Hordes. The Hordes are just that, a giant horde of Freakers. And these Hordes can really mess you up. These Hordes are huge too. A horde of like 300 Freakers is allegedly considered small. I don't even want to imagine how many Freakers you'd see in a large horde. You may just stumble upon a horde, or you have to fight one for story reasons, or side story reasons. I'm sure by now you've all seen footage of Deacon fighting a horde in that construction site. You have to be smart about it apparently, placing traps all around and trying to lure the horde into these traps and picking off stragglers one by one. And it doesn't really look easy, it looks pretty difficult. It seems that Freakers can overwhelm you very quickly if you aren't careful, and if you slow down and stop moving, you're probably screwed. Apparently, Freakers also get smarter and more difficult as the game progresses, which means that Hordes will also get way more difficult. Now, one cool thing though, if you come across a Horde out in the wild, you can actually lure them into a group of enemies and have them take each other out. Like maybe essentially it's a good easy way to clean out an outpost. It's pretty smart. But coming down to number 3, in Days Gone, Deacon has 3 main areas of focus and gameplay, and the same goes for the branches of a skill tree. There's melee combat, ranged combat, and survival stuff. So the way it works, like many a video game you've probably played before, you kill enemies and complete missions to earn experience points. You can grow and spend points in a traditional skill tree, and you can sort of focus your area in certain branches for whatever your playstyle is, it seems. Each of the 3 has their own variety of skills and perks. Like, for example, apparently there's a ranged combat upgrade that with each headshot, you regain a small amount of health. You're also able to upgrade your individual stats like health and stamina and the survival focus when you clear certain checkpoints that act as emergency checkpoints before the disaster. These are the NERO checkpoints that I mentioned earlier. Deacon can find medicine inside that can improve one of the 3, either health, stamina, or focus. You'll be able to change gear and fast travel once you clear these things out, so completing other types of jobs will also net you benefits like, better gear and bike upgrades, but the NERO emergency checkpoints are the most important ones we wanted to point out. Now, coming down to number 2, weapons are aplenty in this game for obvious reasons. I mean, you can carry 2 weapons at once, typically a rifle and a sidearm, and you can swap them on the fly with the triangle button. There's a lot going on from crossbows to shotguns to assault rifles, and these can be upgraded with different optics, magazine sizes, and silencers. You can find weapons out in the wild, in interiors you explore, in crates, and even in some good cars like a police car. And you're going to be wanting to find weapons, both melee and of the gun type, because they do degrade, which is kind of a bummer. Basically, they become less usable with worse accuracy the more worn they get. Now, I can't wait to see how long they actually take to get crappy. I hope it's for a while, but anyway, you can pick up weapons out in the wild, but the best weapons apparently are typically going to be bought in the camps from vendors. The game has an escalation scaling system as well, meaning the more ammo you waste, the more explosions and destructions you cause, the more the world reacts to you and brings in more freakers and possibly animals and human enemies too. So be violent accordingly. But finally, at number 1, as always, let's get some housekeeping out of the way. Now, Days Gone launches exclusively on PS4 on April 26th, 2019. There are 3 different editions of Days Gone launching. There's the Standard Edition, the Digital Deluxe Edition that comes with the game, an art book, the soundtrack, 3 bike skins, and an early unlock for the Monkey Wrench skill, and a dynamic PS4 theme. Then we have the Collector's Edition that comes with a copy of the game, a statue, a steelbook, a patch, 6 pins, 4 decals, and a copy of the soundtrack and art book. There will be PS4 Pro support in the form of 4K checkerboard rendering. It has also been confirmed that the game will not launch with multiplayer, and it won't be added in the future either. This is completely a single-player affair, which I'm down with. Although we will get additional story DLC added in the future, but we still don't know anything about that yet. There will also be a photo mode included, which just seems to be a thing with PS4 exclusives lately, and really a lot of games at this point, and we're always into those. But really, that's everything to get you caught up on Days Gone before it releases at the end of April. I definitely want to know what you guys are thinking down in the comments about this game. Some people are lukewarm on it, some people are ultra hyped. I fall somewhere in the middle, but we want to talk to you guys. Now, if you learned a thing or two, clicking the like button is the best way you can help us out and show your support. We would really appreciate that. But if you're new, consider subscribing and clicking that notification bell, because we put out new videos every single day. But as always, thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next time.